Hello, everyone, and welcome back to our, unfortunately, last open panel discussion of this Romanian testing conference in 2020. If you are a superhero or superhero, and you are not Tony Stark, aka Iron Man, you also have a private life, and it has an impact on what you're doing on your job. The same is true for those of us more normal heroes and sheroes, and what we are doing in our private life. So also our private life has a massive impact on our work life, and we draw a lot of our inspiration from our private life. That is the topic of today's open panel, and here are my participants, and we will talk about how our non-work life is influencing our expertise and or also our work life. It might be that your expertise might not be on your work life, but we might also talk about that as well. So let's start with a quick introduction round. Who are you, and why are you interested in testing? And on that case, I'll start with the lovely tester next to me. So, Toby.
Yeah, hi. So my name is Tobias Geyer. I've been a professional tester since 10 years. I pretty much stumbled into testing. It was the first job I got after finishing my education. And got stuck with it, liked it a lot. And I think it's very interesting. You're constantly learning new things, trying out new things. That's a really fun thing for me.
Ronald.
So my name is Ronald Cummings John. I'm spend most of my time helping people understand the importance of quality. I'm the co-founder of one of the world's largest crowdsourced testing companies called Global App Testing, and also the author of co-author of a book called Leading Quality, which we launched last year and became an Amazon bestseller. So I'm not a tester in my day-to-day, but I know tens of thousands of them.
Nice. Sharon.
Hi, I'm Sharon Steed. I'm also not a tester. I'm a consultant where I focus on communicating with empathy. I'm also a person who stutters, and so I know a little bit about testing in terms of just communication, like what works and what doesn't. But I have spoken at a few testing conferences, and it seems like a really cool community, as well as a very, very, very important job. So I'm just really happy to be here.
Thank you. So it seems basically Toby is the only full-time tester on that panel, because also I'm not working as a full-time tester anymore. I am a CEO at Quality Minds, and I specialize in learning. So most of the time I'm working as an agile or a learning consultant or an agile learning coach.
But for all the testers, don't leave, because it's still going to be a great session. I promise.
Definitely. And also, I work most of the time with testers in the testing community. So like Ronald and Sharon, I love this community a lot because I think it's awesome. And I'm working with Quality Minds is a company for testers. And so we are doing test consultancy. So stay on. I think it's going to be a great topic. So our topic today is how non-work related topics and influences our daily routines and in our work life. So how it influences our expertise. So Ronald, when was the last time something in your non-work related life influenced something in your work related life? And what was it?
I remember a few years ago going to a therapist or a coach, whatever you want to call him, and he told me that whatever's happening in my personal life will affect my work life. And at first I was like, no, it's not. And he was like, they're connected. The way you are outside of work is a mirror of how you are inside work. So you can't really separate them. And so the thing that's had the most profound effect on me outside of work that has affected my work was I came across this guy called Joe Dispenza, and he talked about this concept of going into work and being annoyed or pissed off at someone at work, which happens to all of us, right? But before you even get into work, you've already had the conversation in your head where you've had the argument, and how having that argument in your head is basically creating just as much stress as you being inside that exact situation. And so from him talking about this whole concept of how we can trigger stress in our own body and in our own mind without even being in the office, it just made me really start to recalibrate when I was in the office. And so that when I was having those conversations in my mind about a person or with a person, to just stop it, because really everything was just made up in my head, and I need to have the conversation with the person before I actually know anything. And that's had a profound effect over the last year on how I work and how I show up in my work life.
Sharon.
I think this is a really interesting question because just in my own career, in the beginning of when I started speaking, I would talk a little bit about stuttering and then just go immediately into teaching. Like I was trying to not, share as much personal, like experiences, but then as I began to speak, more and have a lot more experiences just, as a professional, it dawned on me that the most impactful parts of, my talks are when I'm telling stories about my personal experiences and then connecting them to professional, skills. And so, my personal life and my professional life are, in a lot of ways, they're very much connected. And so, now I'm constantly trying to think of, more personal experiences to share with people in order to, help them learn about the, kinds of things that I'm talking about. So for me, I mean, my personal life is constantly, impacting my professional life as well as vice versa. Like there almost is no line anymore, which I should probably fix that, but it works. So.
Toby, do you want to share your last experience?
Yeah, so the last experience is actually happened last weekend. So I've got two kids, and I've got a small 4-year-old daughter, and basically since ever she's been really shy, didn't want to play along well with other kids, was only always asking me to hold her hands. And last weekend we went to the playground, and for the first time ever that I noticed it, she just went up to the carousel. There were like 6 or 7-year-old kids playing on the carousel, and she was like, "Hey, I want to play with you." And I was sitting over there on a bench and was totally amazed that all of a sudden she had mustered the courage to go over there. And yeah, of course she could play with them. They played along suitably well. And for me, this was, just a reminder that we've heard this in this conference in quite a few talks. Don't be afraid to talk to people, and don't have the conversation in your head. Just really talk to people. And I've not been doing a really good job about that lately. So it was a nice reminder that, don't be shy, don't shy away. Go talk.
Thank you. Toby was actually the one who suggested that topic for today's panel, and I thought it's a great topic. And when I thought about that topic, I also thought about that, especially with this time at the moment, being in a pandemic and working from home a lot, the separation, like Sharon said, between work and what we call life seems to get harder. And I had a talk with someone over lunch where he also, when I talked about what we're going to talk in this panel about, he said, I can't remember having a real private life. But he didn't say that in a bad way. For him, it was like Sharon said, and I have the same experience. My private and my work life is something very influencing each other and something very connected. So do you think it's getting harder to separate your work life and your private life? And might be this not separation might be actually a good thing. Sharon?
Yeah, I mean, I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing. I was gonna say something about like as long as you have balance, it's fine. But like, is there balance? I mean, I don't know if balance is a thing that really exists. But I think that if we are, I think that we try to sort of turn off parts of ourselves in order to like hit through our work. And I don't think that that's a good thing either. I mean, I think that, excuse me, if we could just bring like our entire selves to our work, then I think that we could create better products and better experiences for our customers and consumers.
Toby, do you like to add something, especially when it's your topic?
Yeah, pretty much what Sharon said. So one of the things that I noticed about this whole, are we working from home or are we living in the office question? I can now get my washing done between meetings. I mean, I'm a parent. I always have washing to do. And how cool is that? At the same time, I noticed with myself that I have to be really careful because if there's a problem at work, I know that the laptop is just one room away and I could work through the whole night just trying to fix issues there. So it takes practice. Balance is a good question, as Sharon said. Yeah, do we have balance? Right now, I feel like there's no proper separation anymore, but that's okay. And also don't mind my coworkers' kids on video calls. I mean, yeah, my kids are on video calls as well, and it adds a nice human element to the work we do. We bring a whole lot more of ourselves to work, as Sharon said. Yeah, I like that a lot.
Yeah, I totally agree. I really like seeing all of those children, spouses, puppies in the different kind of calls, and I think it makes the whole connection thing more human. Ronald, do you like to add something to this work-life
Well,
balance?
I guess just on that, my favorite thing is when the kids are just playing up and causing mischief, because then you're like, phew, mine aren't as bad. And it is that whole idea of we're all going through the same thing that just makes it great. So my views on how we deal with work-life balance is, I think, pretty similar to what Sharon said at the start, which is I don't really believe in work-life balance as a thing. Um, I personally love what I do. And because I love what I do, I'll think about it at different points in the day. Most people tell me their best ideas come when they're in the shower, or I couldn't sleep last night and I thought of this. And you're like, thank you. Because how many great ideas do you have when you're actually in the office? It's actually pretty rare. It's when your mind's just not thinking about a thing that these great ideas start to come into play. And so I am pretty comfortable with the fluidity of work and life being a thing. Um, and I also think to myself, the COVID situation hasn't changed things that much. Beforehand, we all had Slack on our phones, we had emails on our phones. You were still just as connected. I actually we There was this discussion in our company, and someone said, how's your work life balance? And I actually thought everyone was going to say it's gone down the drain, but the majority of people said it's actually improved because like here, I get to spend more time with my family than I ever did before. We have breakfast together. That never used to happen when I used to go to work because I'd be off, they'd be off. And so all of these extra moments of time have been created that I'm super grateful for personally. The only difference that runs through my head is change is often quite nice. When we were all in the office, we were like, it'd be great if I could just work from home 1 or 2 days. And now that we're all at home, it's like, it'd be great if I could work in the office 1 or 2 days. So having the change and flexibility is more my preference than being in one side.
Yeah, I totally agree. So we talked about the things you remember, which was the last thing influencing your work life. So with Toby last weekend, and let's now talk about the biggest thing which influenced your work life, which you basically caught up from your private life or your non-work related life. What was this biggest thing, Toby?
Yeah, that was quite a difficult question, actually. And I mean, I came up with the topic, yay. So for me, I've got to say my biggest influence from non-work-related life was what I talked about today, discovering that there's all kinds of things you can take from your private life, and in my case, from fiction books, fiction novels, and apply them to your work life and actually learn something about yourself. So I discovered that the books that Terry Pratchett wrote about the Discworld, they have parallels to my professional life. And with that in mind, I reread most of the books, not only to prepare for the talk, but also because after having made that connection, I wanted to see what more else is there. And I actually discovered some of my shortcomings in those books, like things were being pointed out where I thought, okay, yeah, I am like this person, and maybe I'm like this person at work. Maybe I should try to change that. So for me, that was the biggest thing.
Ronald, what was your biggest influence?
I was thinking about this, and I have to actually go with what I had just said, because it has just changed my whole attitude at work. And I think we all end up in so many stressful situations at work. Being able to, like, I personally call it the spiral. You know, you have a bad thought, that then makes another bad thought, and then another. Then all of a sudden, it's just a crap day. Like, it's all gone wrong. And being able to stop yourself from going down the spiral, I mean, that is the best thing ever. So I'll have to say that my last thing is also my best thing.
Sharon?
I mean, you know, for me, I mean, it's obviously stuttering, but in the beginning, you know, I spent a lot of time just trying to kind of be, you know, the person that I felt like would be taken more seriously. And so I thought that the goal was fluency. But, you know, people feel a lot more comfortable, you know, being personal with me about their own experiences as a result of, you know, me sharing, you know, like my personal experiences and my struggles with speech. And so, you know, fluency at this point, it isn't even the goal anymore. It's about just being comfortable, you know, speaking in a way that, you know, just I can get my point across, and to really continue to connect with, you know, people and to make them feel comfortable, you know, sharing their experiences with me, as well as with, you know, others, because I think that that just fosters a lot of, you know, good results.
Yeah, I think for me, the first time I connected to agility was not at work. So most people, first time they see agility, they see it in a software project. For me, I started to refactor my whole household with a Kanban method, because at a certain time while doing my PhD, I had a huge problem getting all the other stuff done. And therefore, I used the Kanban board and I used the different methodologies to actually structure my household, to get all the shoppings done and to do the washing and to do all the other things. And at that point, I would never believed that basically working in a more agile way with Kanban and afterwards with Scrum would help me to basically do what I do at the moment. I'm working as an agile coach. I'm connecting agility with learning theories. And basically it all started with something I was doing very, very private, just to keep up with what I have to do. And that was also for me, it was a point where I started thinking, oh, where can I apply things like that? How can I do things a little bit differently? How can I improve things? And that helped me a lot to get into a different mindset, and also to be a little bit more positive, which is at the end of a PhD a very important thing, to stay positive. Which brings us to our last question. do you have any strategies to find interesting artifacts which you can then afterwards include into your work life? And how do you do it? What are your strategies? Sharon.
Yeah, I mean, I come from a writing background, and so I'm always going to say, just do some free writing every single day. Spend like 30 minutes just typing away, like in a Pages document or a Word document, and just keep on doing it until you sort of stumble on brilliance. But another thing that I think you could do is just to continue to, read. I know that I learn a lot about just how I think about things, how I feel about things from consuming as much content, excuse me, as I can. So reading as well as writing, I think, are the two, for me, most impactful ways to just just learn a little bit more about myself.
Thank you. Ronald, what's your strategy?
I'm so on Sharon's team with this one. In particularly the reading. Warren Buffett does this thing, not Warren Buffett, Bill Gates does this thing where he has a reading week every year of his life, and he goes away to the woods and he just reads. So I attempted this. And the most interesting part of doing a reading week is working out what you want to read, because I thought it would be a quick exercise. But then after I worked out all the areas that I think I want to learn more in, and then what are the best books around them, I basically created a 5-year reading list that I'm not going to get done inside a week. And so just the process of really introspection of what is it that you want to learn to become better at, as I guess Sharon was saying, is step number one. And then B, taking the time to actually do that reading. And I think of all the reading I've done lately, when I just had the last reading week, I was looking at the concept of mental models. And it really is just the idea that if you have more mental models, more ways of looking at a situation, you can better access what really is the situation. Because no matter what we think from our perspective, it is only one perspective. So you either have to be able to have a set of questions or ways of looking at stuff that give you a broader aspect of a broader perspective, or you need to know and talk to a lot of people to get that perspective. And so lately, I'm super interested in how do I increase the number of mental models I have inside my brain, so that when I look at a situation, I'm asking questions from a wider perspective. And now, if you look at the role of a tester, this is almost second nature in and of itself. And so if we take someone with a testing background and they are adding more mental models and more thinking frameworks onto the way that they work, they're becoming one of the best and most useful people inside the company.
I totally agree with a lot of things you're saying, and what I do to include private life or the private strategies there is to set learning goals, because that helps with what you said with the books, with the book list. From the learning methods we developed in the last couple of years, what we are doing here is actually saying, I want to learn this, and I want this because of. So I try to explain why I want to learn something specific. And we allow our colleagues in our company that they can also learn their something private. It's not separated. Oh, you have to learn something about testing or something about development, but you can learn whatever you want, because, as you said, that changes your perspective and gives you far more opportunities to look at different things with a different angle. And this is what we're going for, especially in testing, because we need to have a broadened view, but also a narrow view from time to time. And talking about something private or learning something new helps you to achieve this, in my point of view. So, Toby, what's your strategy?
Well, I don't have a strategy for finding interesting artifacts because I'm pretty much interested in anything. If somebody's passionate about a topic and wants to talk to me, I'm willing to listen. I love information. I soak it all up. And I'm not exactly setting out for things to broaden my horizon. What I found, what is the most important thing for me, is to actually create space that I'm able to process all of that. Just kind of like what Sharon said with the free writing, was the term, I think. So my release for that is I go running. I try to go running twice a week for at least an hour, because if I'm out after like 10, 15 minutes, my head switches off and I'm very conscious about my body, trying not to fall over. I go running at night, so I have to watch out for what I'm doing. But that kind of frees up the processing power in my mind to process all the information, all those background tasks. I'm an engineer. All those background tasks start spinning up, and all of a sudden there are some insights popping up or some interesting topics where I'm like half an hour into a run, I just realized what my head is thinking about. I'm like, why did I end up here? But that's really interesting, and it's just a matter of remembering it until I'm back home and then look into it more. But for me, that's the important thing, to free up that headspace. And back before COVID, when we were still in the office, I actually did lunch runs twice a week, where instead of going for lunch with my teammates, I just went out for a run to process what had happened during the day. And if I had become stuck, usually during that run, I become unstuck. I had a new idea, something like that.
Like that. Thank you all so much. Thank you for sharing your stories and your ideas. I think it was very valuable, at least for me. I hope for some else in the audience that was also helpful. So before we now close that session, and also we close the online version, and therefore the RTC 2020 comes to an end, I want to share thanks. First, I want to say thank you to Andre and Andre, not only for inviting me as a chairperson, but also for this amazing conference and giving us the opportunity to share stories and just be here, get new ideas, see new people, meet new people, meet old people, people we already knew. It was an amazing experience. And for me, this was my first online conference, but I liked it very much. Thank you very, very much. I also like to thank the whole RTC organizing team for all the help they gave to the speakers, to the participants. It was amazing. And without you, this whole conference wouldn't be possible. I like to say thanks to our sponsors for making this an event like the RTC even possible. I like to say thank you to all the keynote speakers, and open panel discussion participants. Thank you for sharing your knowledge, sharing your stories, sharing your hero and heroes journeys. It was most amazing to see how you've overcome some issues, to what you've done, how you help others to get better at what they do. It was really, really nice. Thank you so much. And last but not least, thank you all for participating. So all of you in front of the laptops, in front of your personal computers, thank you for joining in, because otherwise we were just speaking to our cameras and it feels weird to think there's no one out there. So thank you so much for listening in and joining us for that journey to becoming a superhero or a superhero. Thank you so much. You can see all the keynotes and open panels on YouTube. And also in the next couple of weeks or month, all the other great talks are freely available on YouTube. So just feel free to look at them, to listen what the speakers have to tell you, and feel also free, like we said in this round. Feel free to connect to the speakers. They are really nice. I've talked to a lot of them. They are amazing, and they are really eager to help. So just get in contact with them, ask them questions. If you have some misunderstandings or you think they can help you, just get in contact with them. Get in contact with me or the Andres. It's most of us, we are quite easy to talk to. So just send us a quick message via Slack, via Twitter, LinkedIn, whatever you like. So again, thank you all for this amazing event. It was wonderful. Thank you.